Hey, it's Chocobo, and welcome to Loot from Hunting Larran's Keys for 10 hours. Jagex has decided to update Wilderness Slayer, and all monsters assigned by Cristelia will have a chance of dropping Larran's Keys. You then use these keys to open some chests in the wilderness, and depending on the chest you go to, the higher wilderness level you're in, the more loot you will receive. My first Slayer assignment was Black Demons, and I had already noticed a grave site of somebody who obviously had been PK'd, so this made me rather concerned. Since it was a new wilderness update, I figured there would be a lot of people out PKing, so I really tried hard to avoid all of the Revenant Cave tasks, but that wasn't always the case. Since I was pretty much avoiding the Greater Demons and Black Demon task after this first one, I really didn't get as many hard clues as I got in my 30-hour Wilderness Slayer video. So this was the third time I'd actually run into PKers at Black Demons in 50 total kills, and I decided, I had had enough with this task. The Rev Caves are not the place to be on the first day of release. I went ahead and got a Dark Warriors task, and unfortunately I did not receive one of the new keys, so I figured they were actually a little bit rare. I don't know if the combat levels do affect how often they do drop the keys, but I did happen to kill a giant spider and got a key like literally right after. I am still convinced that scorpions and spiders are the best Wilderness Slayer tasks in the game. They literally take 2 minutes to complete, and you have a chance at getting the mysterious emblems and these Larran's keys, as well as, I guess, the more worthless Slayer enchantments. It was pretty cool to actually be out on the first day of release, just because you actually saw people PKing, and it looked like they were just having fun. This guy actually came back on his main, and he forgot a lockpick. I don't think I'm gonna put that in the video, though. I've also been hearing rumors that they might have increased the drop rate of mysterious emblems from Slayer tasks. It might just be a coincidence that I've been receiving a little bit more emblems than I expected, but I'm not 100% sure. It's way too small of a sample size to say that they actually did this. It's just really interesting how other people have been mentioning it as well. One more thing, these Slayer enchantments are worth literally like 0, so I really wish they would change these a little bit. I don't know what they could do with them. If you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear your ideas on maybe what they could do to implement these into being maybe more useful in some niche level of content. I decided that I still would do lesser demons because they were in such a far area away from the revenants that I figured people wouldn't really go here. I was very surprised to have run into this pure team though, and unfortunately they spooked me so much I did not realize that they were pures until after I clicked the telly. I needed to quickly head back and get my mysterious emblem, which I had just received. I wish I would receive more of these lesser demon tasks because it really is a very easy task to complete in terms of speed, and they can also drop the champion scroll, which I still actually need on my main account. Something to note is that I did only kill one wilderness boss, and that was Scorpia 3 times in the entire 10 hours of hunting these keys. I don't know if they have a higher chance of dropping the keys, but it really didn't seem like it would be worth it right now because I felt like there would be so many PKers out. I could try and do 10 hours of Wildy Slayer bosses on Slayer task if you guys would like to maybe compare the loot and see if there's any big difference. Either way, I'll probably be in the wilderness doing a lot of Slayer tasks anyways, just because I'd like to get some of these champion scrolls knocked out if possible. Also, those series of events with those peers was pretty dang funny. I'm really glad I got to come back and notice they were doing that. This was the most random encounter I had in the Rev Caves. I ran into Poojabber364, and for some reason he queued up a fire blast before actually TPing, so I don't really know what was going on there. It should be worth mentioning that I decided to do this in just my random homeworld, which would be 356, because I actually think that it is worse to do Wilderness Slayer on the 2200 worlds. Now that might sound a little bit odd, but the truth is I think that the skill total worlds, the high risk world, and PvP worlds are all things that PKers tend to actually check more. They're just worlds that stand out, and the truth is there are a lot of PKers that actually do have 2200 total now, so you're not really as protected as you might think. This is also the only encounter I had with an actual PKer at Ice Plateau, and I have no clue what he was doing in Ice Plateau though, because he was actually risking a fair bit there. He had like an obby cave and stuff skull. I think he was way too low of a combat level to even attack me, but I really don't know. I really hope they keep trying to buff Wilderness Slayer because I still don't see enough activity here. I know that it's not good to necessarily want to see PKers, but that just means that there's not enough incentive for them to scour the wilderness looking for people. The chances of running into people outside of the Revenant Caves and or at the Wilderness Slayer bosses are just so slim compared to back in the day. I know the player base has kind of changed a lot and a lot less people tend to go PKing just casually for fun, but it still is a shame that there aren't more people out. That's why I hope Jagex keeps incentivizing people to go into the wilderness, and I think the next step would be maybe adding more incentives to PvP worlds. PvP worlds used to have great incentives for being on them, and although I would never advocate things such as the 26k and 76k trick coming into old school, maybe incentivizing people to go into these dangerous areas with some risks, maybe doing skilling or something, might not be a bad idea. Obviously, we couldn't have the 26 or 76k trick though. Pretty much, long story short, you could risk a certain amount of money and then you'd get to maximum earning potential, which was something they used to have in RuneScape, and you could kill some guy for like 75k worth of risk and get like a DFS randomly. Wouldn't work so well in old school, I think. Wilderness Slayer decided to leave me off on a good note and actually gave me a task of mammoths that gave me 4 Larran keys, so definitely worth doing that task if you don't already do it. Now my 10 hours was up and I decided it was time to go turn in the 13 total keys that I had earned. I figured this kind of setup, which was based around having a lot of mage defense with my Carols, while still having that hefty melee and range defense with the Din's Bulwark, would be the most beneficial. Something I want to make very clear, if you plan on turning in your keys, please bring a lockpick. There is a building called the Pirate's Hut right next to the pirate ship, and you need a lockpick to get in there. All of the pirates are aggressive, so unless a team is already de-aggroed or they're so big of a team that they can kill every pirate, you should always be able to get a box in there. Also, that goes without saying, make sure you have some type of anti-venom or an anti-poison to drink a couple of times, because it would be awful to run out of food and die to venom while boxing a pirate. I managed to get 621k from my very first key, which is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, the loot did already balance out with those uncut rubies, but the thing to note is that dragon dart tips are pretty hard to get a hold of on Iron Man modes, so maybe this would be worth doing for those dragon darts if you're really trying to get the best absolute time in the Inferno possible on an Iron Man, but I'm not 100% sure. There's probably some better methods. I also received a very notable amount of dragon arrow tips. Unfortunately, these aren't worth nearly as much since they were added as the drop table to the Chambers of Xeric. It's still not terrible, like I said, if you are an Iron Man. I still don't think this would be worth doing. If you're looking for dragon arrows, I would just recommend doing raids, but you never know. We did receive 4 medium clues from doing Wilderness Slayer. I probably would have received more if I banked more often at Ice Warriors, but I really just wanted to get a hold of as many keys as possible. I did bank for the hards though. And if it wasn't apparent in the last clip, I also did get these 8 hard clues, so we'll go ahead and open those. And fortunately, I did have some luck and received a pair of Bandos D-hide boots. I ran out of inventory space, so I had to quickly bank to open the last clue, and as expected, I got a load of junk. The total estimated value from these hard clues was 1.77 mil, and I'll go ahead and sell everything off from the hards and mediums and see what the total amount so far is. The price checker estimated that I would get around 1.94, and I did end with 1.87, so that's not too bad. Next, let's go ahead and sell off all the Larran key loot. I know from my looting bag, it auto price checks how much everything in there is estimated to be worth, and it was around 2.2 mil, so I'd mainly be looking for around 4.1 mil or so in total after selling off everything. Last but not least, this was all of the loot that I actually picked up while doing Slayer. I unfortunately did not pick up any of the green D-hides this time around, and I did not pick up the black D-hides from the one black dragon task I got, but I did end up getting those 94 D-bones, and that will definitely add a sizable chunk to this. It really disappoints me that these emblems dropped so much. They were 180k almost last time I did this video, but getting 22 of them in 10 hours is definitely not terrible. Now let's see how much money I made and how much EXP per hour approximately I was getting. So we netted in 7.61 mil, but unfortunately we do have to subtract the costs of the cannonballs, revenant ether, and potions. I used a total of 7,000 cannonballs, 6,500 ether, and 100 prayer pots. This left me with a total of 4.56 mil in profit. Now divided by 10, that's only 456k an hour, so this definitely isn't very good still. I ended this endeavor with 28.33 mil range experience, and that means I gained around 650k or so. I started at 13.79 million Slayer experience and ended at 13.98 million, which means I gained a total of 190k, which comes out to be around 19k Slayer XP an hour. Wilderness Slayer is still something that needs a lot of updates, and I hope that they keep trying to buff it to make more and more people use it. If you're not already subscribed, I'd really appreciate you hitting that button. It does help me a lot, and also hitting the like button so more people can find the channel. That'd be really awesome. I thank you again for your time, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon with another Hardcore Iron Man maxing video.